welcome to FVHS Legacy Voices. This is a podcast where we celebrate the people who have shaped the history and spirit of Fuquay-Varina High School. And today we're joined by John Burt, a proud member of the class of 2000. Since graduation, he's gone on to be the owner of Iron Horse Farm and is the current president of the Wake County Farm Bureau. His legacy of excellence began right here on our campus. We're excited to revisit your school memories today, John, and hear how your journey has shaped your life and our community. So for listeners who may not know you yet, can you tell us a little bit about yourself and your journey with FVHS?
Sure. I'm a ninth generation farmer on our family's farm. We've been here since 1752. So before there was a Fuquay or a Varina or a Fuquay-Varina or a Wake County, our family was here. So we're very proud of our legacy of being an agricultural family and an agricultural operation that's operated right here in the Fuquay area. I grew up here. I went to Lincoln Heights for elementary school. I went to the Fuquay Middle School when it was still in the middle of the kind of downtown area before they built the new middle school. And I was on this campus and then graduated here in 2000. I am married and have two children, so they'll hopefully be the 10th generation to want to farm and continue our family's legacy.
So you mentioned going to Fuquay-Varina High School. What path did you take post-graduation?
So while I was still here, I joined the National Guard. So I was in what was called the delayed entry program. I'm not sure if that still exists or not. So I was technically in the National Guard. As soon as I graduated, I think 3 days later, I went to basic training with the Army. I went to basic training for that summer and then started NC State. So I was accepted in the agronomy program, which there's different concentrations. Most people do like turf grass or something very interesting. I did crop production.
Wow.
So on our farm, we do a lot of growing hay, a lot of managing pastures for our livestock that are there. We have beef cows and horses. So that fit pretty well with what my career needs were going to be. While I was at NC State, of course, 9/11 happened, and we were deployed to Iraq in 2003 and 4. I went back and finished my degree and got commissioned as a lieutenant in the Army in the same unit that I was already in. And, of course, we got deployed again in 2009, and after that, I decided that was enough Army fun for me, so we returned back to the farm. I got married and carried on the family tradition.
Wow. And your service to our country is commendable, so thank you for sharing that. You know, you've mentioned a lot of things that you've gone and done in your life. Is there any one thing that you're most proud of as your accomplishment?
I would definitely say that I'm proud of my military service and being able to do what I could for my country while I was able to. I'm very proud of my family, for my wife and my kids, and watching them grow up and being able to learn how to drive tractors and how to feed animals. We have a little calf right now that's an orphan little calf that my son's been bottle feeding and trying to train and teach. So it's really cool just getting to see those things as you grow older and you get to see the next generation come up and watch them discover all over again the things that I learned when I was a kid. And definitely being a part of Farm Bureau. It's a very large organization across the state, and Wake County is the largest in the state and one of the largest, if not the largest county in the country for Farm Bureau. We have over 30,000 members, and we do a lot of engagement with our elected officials and representing the needs of farmers and people just in the rural parts of the county that are left in Wake County. And there are a lot of pockets that are still rural that need a voice.
I was going to say they do need a voice, especially right now. So is there anything that you would consider maybe a major turning point in your career? You did mention you started at state. Clearly you had to stop immediately and go into service. So I'm just wondering, is there something that you would consider the most pivotal thing that turned your career or your education?
So definitely joining the military kind of, it changed my life. Before, anybody that listens to this that knew me in high school would say, well, he was very quiet, very shy, had a very small group of friends. He was not like the leader of student council or the the football player or whatever. I was not involved in any sports. I was terrified of trying out for anything. So probably joining the Army helped build my confidence, helped me find my voice, and my ability to kind of lead and direct things. And of course, that spilled over into multiple areas of my life now, between Farm Bureau, between being involved in church as an elder at our church here in Fuquay. There's lots of leadership opportunities. And of course, leading in a nonprofit capacity is much harder than leading in the military, where they have to do what you say. And on the nonprofit side, you have to find other ways to convince people that it's a good idea to be involved and to take action.
That's a good point. All right, so you were on the older campus of Fuquay that was here on Bengal Boulevard, which we're excited about. I'm sure you have many memories. Do you want to share one favorite or funny memory from high school or something in that vein?
Trying to think of anything funny. Most of my memories would probably be revolved around being involved in FFA,
Yes.
and taking a lot of the vocational agricultural classes that were here. Had lots of friends that were in FFA. I was also in band. I was not in marching band though, and there was kind of there weren't as many of us. They were just doing concert band. But John Enlow was the band director back then. So we had a lot of fun memories with friends doing band things.
Yeah.
Went on trips. I know we went to New York City one time. That was a fun trip to go on. Just anything with FFA. A lot of times we were always tinkering with something in the shop. I remember we were working on making one of these large trailer mounted grills. It was a lot of fun. Trying to learn how to weld, and
Yeah.
you're wearing nylon clothing that obviously does not react well when you have embers of molten metal that are splashing on you and nearly burning your. I think most of my clothes had holes in them. People would think I was poor and destitute, but it was really just in shop
was
class
just in
learning
shop.
about welding. So
A class we still have here, which thank goodness.
Yes.
We would be lost without our welders. Can you think of a teacher or class that maybe you think shaped you the most while you were here at Fuquay?
So definitely, but because I took the ag classes for 4 years in a row, Jerry Holland was the teacher when we first started. He retired. It was interesting because Jerry Holland was my father's teacher, who had also come up through the Fuquay High School back when it was, I guess, where the old middle school is now. All K through 12 used to be there way back. But Jerry Holland retired while I was here, and Michael Ballin took over, who was still a teacher. So definitely, you had a closer relationship. We did a lot of competitions in FFA. You spent a lot of time outside of class, just the normal routine. So having him
That's
for 4 years,
awesome.
and then John Enlow with the band,
Yeah.
again, is the same person for 4 years. You got to see and kind of build a
Okay.
relationship
Yeah.
and learn a lot about not just music and not just agriculture, just about life.
What instrument did you play?
So I started out with clarinet with the goal to
Yes.
get to tenor saxophone. So I think I played 2 years with a tenor saxophone. I was not a great band student. I was good at blending in. You did not want me for a solo or anything like that, but I could blend in and help give volume to the
That's
band.
exactly right. Everybody has a part in band. So, this is interesting because you walked part of our new campus. We could talk about lots of things that have changed between the old Fuquay and new Fuquay campuses. Is there something that stands out, or maybe there's something you think that, wow, that's still kind of the same since your time here?
So just from briefly looking around, the old high school was very, piecemeal. As they got bigger, they just added another random building to it.
True.
It didn't seem like a lot of continuity between building one building to the next, and it
True.
was different. Trying to find your classes as a freshman or sophomore, or understanding the way the numbering scheme was a little bit more of a challenge, I think. But it makes sense in this day and age. You can't have these big, large, sprawling campuses. They've got to be more compact for security reasons and just
Right.
for simplicity of how to move students around the best. But looking out at the courtyard, it's to me it's barely
Visible.
reminiscent of what it looked like with the old planters that were in the middle of
Oh,
it that everybody
yes.
sat
Yep.
around for lunch. And it's definitely seemed like a more open, airy campus because
Yeah.
there weren't a whole lot of indoor places to hang out with your friends or
Sure.
eat lunch or whatever. The cafeteria was way too small, and
Yeah, it
I
was
think
very
I think it still is probably everybody would say it's too small. You can't wait to get off campus for lunch.
True, true, and we still get to do that. So now we get to kind of shift gears a little bit, and you mentioned your involvement with the Wake County Farm Bureau. Are there any other areas of your community that you are involved with?
Yeah, so like I said, I'm also a member of Fellowship Bible Church here in
Great.
Fuquay, across from the Fuquay Springs Park. So I've been a member there for 15 or 20 years, and was recently ordained as like an elder of the
Oh, wow.
church.
Yeah.
So that's been cool. Having other ways to serve the community and serve the
Yes.
needs of people who are there, and provide some leadership also
I like that.
at the church. But Farm Bureau does take a lot of time.
I would
As the
think.
president, we have a staff of one full-time person, and everybody else is volunteers, including myself.
Yeah.
We get paid in free food and free T-shirts and hats. So, but it's a very time-consuming thing that we have to spend a lot of time doing.
So what inspired you to get involved with Farm Bureau, knowing that that position is mostly volunteer? How did that decision come to you?
So I guess from my generation, that's when if you provided a free meal, that was
Yeah.
like all you needed to get people to come
Yeah.
and hang out and do things. My grandfather was involved when they started Farm Bureau back in the 50s. My father had been involved for a long time with Farm Bureau.
Yeah.
And after I'd gotten out of the Army, I had some skills available for leadership. And they have a Young Farmer and Rancher program, which a lot of times we've tried to pair, like the FFA kids from high school is like a next step. They have Young Farmers and Ranchers in college. They also have it just like outside of college until you're like 35 years old. So I was involved in that program statewide, and it kind of opened your eyes to the diversity of the state for agriculture and the needs to represent the problems people have. And there's not everybody who's willing to get involved and get in the in the trenches and go to public hearings and go or write a resolution to support a position that the politicians are trying to discuss and figure out what they want to do next. So that was something I felt that I was pretty good at, that I could try to work with politicians trying to achieve the goals that we have for farmers and rural people in Wake County.
Wow. You had a career here at FVHS. How do you see the values or lessons you learned here reflected in your own work today and in the many positions you hold right now?
So I think in high school, well, just throughout school, you're learning to learn. You're learning how to work with others. You always hated group projects because you realize there's different personalities and different kind of people you're going to have to work with. And unfortunately, it's not just in school where you have somebody who's really driven and works hard and somebody who's lazy and won't do anything, and a couple of people that'll do what you tell them to do, but they're not really going to work hard. That's throughout your entire life. You're going to have people like that on your team, whether you like it or not. Sometimes you can pick your team. Most of the time, you don't get to pick your team. And you're assigned a team, and this is who you are going to work with. So I think that definitely prepares you for the reality of life. There's different types of people, no matter what you do. And as much as you can, you look for these these attributes and these traits, and you say, you know what, this person may not be as driven, but if they're good at taking instruction, let me be the best leader I can to instruct them and give clear instructions and clear timelines that they can work on to be able to achieve whatever they're working at.
Oh, I love that. So if you could walk the halls of FVHS right now, what advice would you give to maybe the teachers or students that are here?
The best advice, well, like I mentioned just a second ago, that learning to learn, I think, is the most valuable thing. Even with agriculture, you say it's not rocket science to plant a seed and make it grow.
Right.
What's really hard is like when you have problems, like when a disease comes in, or when you have a drought, or when the market crashes for the crop that you're growing, and trying to understand the complexity of everything you're doing. I think the benefit is, for the classes that you hate the most. For me, it would be like, literature or English. Yeah, but that's really important because now in the volunteer role of Farm Bureau or even working at my horse barn, I have to provide like a memo that says, all right, this is what we're doing. We're changing the schedule for how we're feeding the horses. This is what we're doing. I have to be able to communicate effectively. And if you have a poorly written memo or a poorly written resolution or email, that's the bad start to a relationship. So even a class that I did not like, doing literature and English, it's important to have that background to make you a better, well-rounded member of the community so that you can hopefully reach other people, because I can talk with farmers all day long, but when you have to talk to a politician that doesn't understand farming, I have to be able to shift into their world and be able to communicate on a level that they will understand.
Absolutely.
It may not necessarily be farming.
That's a good point. All right, now you're a legacy of Fuquay, and you've had relatives who've been here, so the question is, if you could describe our school in one word, what would it be?
In one word.
I know, Fuquay Varina High School, in one word.
Wow. The first thing is, as I'm looking at the building, it's enormous. It is enormous now. It didn't seem this big back then. But I know with everything, like a lot of the schools are having to accommodate more and more people. And I think something to do with it's grown, growth, enormous, large.
Well, we are enormous, John, because we are the largest high school in Wake County and one of the largest in the state of North Carolina as far as campus space goes. So thank you, John Burt, for sharing your story with us. And thanks to our listeners for tuning into FVHS Legacy Voices. Stay tuned for more alumni stories.